Bünger. I'm VP of Research here at Lux Research. And
I'm Rodin Lyasoff. I'm CEO of A-Cubed by Airbus, an innovation outpost for Airbus in Silicon Valley.
So one of the things that I think is most interesting about A-Cubed and Rodin's job is that Airbus is the epitome of a large corporation, literally started decades ago with government backing, and to basically take a huge step into innovation, a huge commitment to the future with establishing a group like A-Cubed in Silicon Valley, very far away from home, kind of a different mandate. Can you tell us a little bit about the genesis of A-Cubed and how Airbus got the idea that this was a good, bold step to take?
Sure. I think what's interesting to recognize is that the genesis of Airbus was rooted in being a disruptor and being a challenger in a very entrenched industry. And today, Airbus is a market leader in that industry. So the logical question was, what's next? And Airbus has an aggressive R&D portfolio around their core products. They also do scouting, they do venture investments. The mission for A-Cubed is complementary to all of that. So our mission is to find bright individuals, both inside and outside Airbus, bring them together. And these are individuals with interesting ideas that could disrupt Airbus or the aviation industry in general. And then we empower those individuals to execute their ideas before someone else can do that, to disrupt Airbus before someone else does. And that is their mission. Is it unconventional? Maybe. Is it bold? Yes, but I think that is the DNA of Airbus from the beginning.
Yeah. Huh. Well, so it occurred to me, Airbus does a lot more than just the A380 and the planes that most of us have ridden on and thought about. So you're in cybersecurity, satellites, a bunch of other stuff. So maybe you could give a little bit of an overview of what some of those innovations are.
You mean inside A-Cubed?
Inside A-Cubed, but again, across Airbus generally, what types of things are you trying to disrupt for the parent company?
So our portfolio is pretty open. We look for domains that are relevant to Airbus, and they may be peripheral. They may be peripheral today, but be of interest in the future. And we leave the questions pretty wide open for our project leads to determine what the disruption should be. We don't presume to know what it is. By definition, disruption is unexpected, and so we allow them to look at an entire domain openly and to propose what they think is next.
So one of the projects that I'm most excited about, and I think that everybody is when they hear about it, is Vahana. So these are basically vertical takeoff and landing, small passenger craft. So can you tell us a little bit about that, and when we can expect to fly around in them, and what you're hoping to do with those things?
Sure. So our observation was that urban populations are growing. They're growing at a faster rate, and that the transportation infrastructure on the ground is limited in how much it can scale, and it cannot keep up. In the meantime, the sky is wide open, and we think that the future of transportation includes what we're calling urban air mobility. So being able to take an air taxi, essentially, as a commuter to go to wherever you need to go. But that future requires different types of vehicles. It requires vehicles that are safe, that are clean, that are quiet, that are broadly accessible. And Vahana is such a vehicle. It takes off and lands vertically. It is fully automated. It doesn't require a pilot. It is fully electric, so it's clean, quiet. And what's more interesting, I think, is everyone talks about flying cars, and they talk about the Jetsons. And the one thing that's true about the Jetsons is that their imagination is still pretty limited. Everyone still owns their car. Everyone still has to park it. Everyone still has to drive it themselves. And what we envision is what we've seen in the rest of the transportation industry. People just want transportation as a service, and I think that's going to be true in the air. And Vahana specifically is targeting that market.
Okay, great.
You also asked when are you going to find one. Our first full-size demonstrator is going to fly this year, and when it's actually going to turn into a product is not entirely up to us. These are new types of vehicles, and the path to certification is not well known, but we are pursuing that aggressively, and I think it's going to be a few more years after that.
Yeah, okay.
Until we open the airspace and we can get vehicles that are certified and reliable and can fulfill that mission.
Mm-hmm. So it's a good lead-in to talk about partnerships and venture investment and all the other stuff that goes on in Silicon Valley. There's an ecosystem around aircraft like that, or just about anything else you do. So how do you interface with other parts of the ecosystem in Silicon Valley, back home, everywhere around the world?
Sure. So first, we set very unreasonable goals for all our projects. So we talked about Vahana. A year ago, it was basically a drawing on a paper, and it's flying later this year. So that pace that we've set, and we set that intentionally, by definition, it prohibits us from being aggressively vertically integrated. So a lot of our projects rely on external partnerships and rely on the broader ecosystem, not just in Silicon Valley, but inside Airbus and across the globe, really, to be able to produce the results that we've set out to produce. That is how we do things. Most of our projects are pretty open, and we encourage collaboration within the ecosystem to advance the technology and to bring that market closer, faster.
Yeah. So one of the things, as I said in the beginning, Airbus is looked at by a lot of large corporations as one of its peers, but yet this is still a pretty bold move. There are not a lot of other companies who've done something similar. So what advice would you have for somebody in, say, chemicals or automotive or something else based on your experience with A-Cubed? How do you manage relationships within the company? How do you manage relationships outside? And what's the top lessons, I guess, that you've learned the hard way?
So my one piece of advice is, if you're thinking about setting up something like this and setting up in Silicon Valley, by all means do it. I think do it, but don't presume to know what it should look like or how it should work or how you should engage with the ecosystem. It's pretty easy to go to Silicon Valley. It's pretty easy to open an office and to hire people. I think the real challenge is giving an organization like that the freedom to explore new organizational models, new operational models, new types of engagements with partners, new ways to develop and share IP, and I think that's the challenge, but that's also the big opportunity. And the real opportunity is then being able to take those lessons and translate them to the larger organization to kind of keep it on the leading edge. We've been pretty successful in doing that at A-Cubed, but it comes with this requirement to really be flexible and to not presume that you know what everything's going to look like, to learn from everything that you do every day.
Yeah. So could you describe in just really practical terms, what does A-Cubed look like? How many people? What are their roles? Where do you find them? What are their backgrounds? That type of thing?
Yeah, A-Cubed has about 80 employees today. And the people come from all over the place. We have people that come from inside Airbus, but we have also a lot of external hires. So for instance, one of our projects, Transpose, which is kind of a clean sheet rethink of cabin architectures for large commercial aircraft. The lead for that project comes from a customer experience background. But the chief architect for that project was also the lead architect for the Airbus A350 cabin. And the two of them together can come up with ideas that are both disruptive but also rooted in the reality of how you execute. And in general, you find that kind of synergy happening all over the organization. I find that at any level of the organization, everyone's an innovator, whether you're in procurement or you're processing contracts or you're building an aircraft. Our main objective is to set unreasonable goals for delivery for the projects.
Unreasonable goals.
Unreasonable goals. Very unreasonable timelines, very unreasonable accomplishments, and then build the rest of the organization around them to support those timelines. And so you will see people that are just processing contracts constantly coming up with new ideas to be able to support that pace and to be able to do it more efficiently, to be able to do it faster, to be able to do it better. And those people are hard to find, and so we look for them everywhere. A lot of them come from the aerospace industry, but a lot of them come from outside. And I think it's that inflow of fresh ideas and previously unconsidered solutions that really allow us to do things that surprise even us.
Yeah, so what are some of the other projects you guys are working on? You mentioned Transpose, we talked about Vahana. So what else is new and exciting or coming down the pike that you can talk about?
Sure. So one thing that I think is interesting about A-Cubed is that we don't just focus on new tech, but we also have, sometimes our main innovation is a new business model that will use existing infrastructure and existing technology, but package it in a new way that makes something new possible. So one example of that is Voom, which is an on-demand helicopter air taxi service that is currently fully operational in Brazil. And what's interesting about that is that we looked at what was currently available, and these are normal helicopters using existing ground infrastructure in Brazil. But we have a business model that allows us to make that service offering at a significantly lower price, which then makes it more broadly accessible and really produces a new reality and a new experience for the people on the ground.
Well, so where do you see A-Cubed in 3 years?
My objective for A-Cubed is to get to a steady state where we have a portfolio of projects. We aim for, I think, 5 to 8 projects at any one time that are at a steady pace delivering results, and with an organization around them that is fully mature and stable to be able to support that pipeline. And at that point, we would just be an innovation pipeline for Airbus.
Yeah, okay. Are there things that you're looking for that you haven't found? You know, again, through a pretty big Silicon Valley outpost, through a lot of international travel. I mean, are there sort of holes in the ecosystem that you're hoping somebody will help fill?
I mean, I can only speak about the things that I see, and what's more interesting is the things that we cannot see yet.
Right, okay.
When it comes to urban air mobility, which is a very interesting topic for us, I think the clear challenge there is not, it goes beyond building the vehicles. It has a lot to do with airspace management. The air traffic system in the world it really hasn't evolved much since it was first conceived. And we're seeing a lot of new technologies and a lot of new types of vehicles that are being built and deployed, and we see the regulatory frameworks and the airspace struggling to keep up with it. So I think that is an area that we'll see some innovation in the future.
Great.
That really, I mean, I'm really interested to see how that develops.
Yeah, well, I mean, flying is such a naturally exciting thing for so many people. So I think we have a lot to look forward to. Thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to seeing what you guys come up with.
Thanks, Mark.